Hello guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. Today we're going to discuss what I think the true impact of Nintendo's E3 could be, so let's get into it. So as we get closer to E3, a lot of things start to become apparent, and of course a lot of things get really exciting. This year has been pretty interesting. There's been a weird level of rumors and leaks and all these different things. Many of us have discussed it many times. So there's like a different feeling in the air when it comes to E3 this year. I think it's a good feeling. It's a positive feeling. Strange because of how many weird leaks and stuff are happening, but to be fair, that has been happening more and more over the last couple of years. But some of the other things that start to become apparent as we get closer, as E3 kind of gets more and more into focus, is we start to realize what are the true game plans of a lot of the companies, and of course the three main console manufacturers, going into the show? What is it that they maybe need to achieve? What are they hoping to achieve? What are the things that they can't get wrong, or things that they can't mess up? We've seen every company, all of our favorite companies. I don't care if your favorite company is Nintendo, and your favorite company is Sony, and your favorite company is Ubisoft, whatever it is. They've all made so many weird, dumb, and pretty embarrassing mistakes in a lot of instances at E3 over the years, and it becomes kind of legendary sometimes. But what I wanted to do today was take that idea and apply it to Nintendo, and what Nintendo's probably looking at doing and hoping to accomplish at E3 this year, 2018. What is their true goal? What is it that I personally think, just as my opinion, that they actually need to do? What needs to be achieved by the time E3 is said and done, their presentation has finished, and we're watching the Treehouse and taking in all this new stuff that they're showing? What do we really need to see out of Nintendo, and what's going to happen there? So there's a couple of reasons why 2018 E3 is so very important for Nintendo. And obviously one of the main things we jump to is the fact that this is the second E3 for their brand new console. And what's unique is, based on how and when the Switch released, yes, it's the second E3, but we're also not even like a year and a half into the console's life. I mean, it was only 2.5 months ago that we hit the 1-year anniversary of the Switch. And last year was pretty cool and exciting. I talked about it so many times last year, because whereas the Switch launched in March, it was only 3 months later that Nintendo had to deliver their first E3. Their first E3 in support of their brand new console, and try to show us, okay, well, obviously some 3DS games are still floating around, sure. But also, what about your brand new console? What about the Switch? What about the hybrid nature of it? What are you going to show us that will be exciting and make us care even more about this console? And in my opinion, not everybody's opinion, but in my opinion, I think they mostly succeeded admirably. I mean, for me, come on, they dropped the Metroid Prime 4 thing. Obviously, that was the most crazy exciting thing. Best moment of the entire show for me. And so that was enough. But they had plenty of other things that were exciting. They re-elaborated on a couple of things that we already knew were going to be coming at that time. Overall, I think they had a fine show. And then, of course, we know they even had an extra stinger by showing us Metroid Samus Returns at the Treehouse after their initial direct presentation, and it was just like so insane. Of course, last year was a unique case because of the 3 months after the launch thing. This year is also very interesting because, being the second E3 for the Nintendo Switch, I think what they need to do is show us that they have a lot of continued support. They need to show us that the Switch hype train of devastatingly awesome games isn't slowing down. I think that that is very key. I could see this E3 honestly going a couple of ways. It could obviously be very great, or it could be very not exciting. You know, it could be like some of their more meandering years, like 2015, for example. And I think that in this new Switch age and this new era of Nintendo, I think that if the second E3 they had after the Switch launched did kind of feel as unexciting and unimpactful as what 2015's E3 was, I think that could actually do more damage than it did do to Nintendo in 2015. In 2015, people were already pretty down on Nintendo as a company. No one really liked the Wii U and was supporting it. It wasn't selling very well. I, of course, loved it. I will maintain. I never dropped my unwavering faith and support in the Wii U, but I also acknowledge it wasn't a great system and people didn't care about it. So having a poor E3 at that time, it did suck and it did hurt a little bit, but I think that if they had that happen now, it could potentially be more devastating. Now, I don't think it would kill the Switch or anything, so I don't want you guys to jump to any sort of crazy hyperbole. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I think would happen is we might realize that Nintendo would have then front-loaded the Nintendo Switch with this amazing 2017 lineup, And oh my god, we got so many games. We get the Zelda, we get the Mario, we get the Splatoon, we get a brand new IP, we get a Xenoblade Chronicles, we get so many other things, incredible indie support, yada yada yada. And it was great. And we even got great third-party support by the end of the year with LA Noire and Doom and all these things showing up. And I think that this year, if they didn't really convince the world that, hey, that is going to continue and you won't even believe how many great games are coming to you first and third party alike, I think that people might realize, man, they just front loaded the Nintendo Switch. They kind of teased us and set a precedence for this amazing lineup of non-stop killer games in 2017, but now we're seeing that slow down, and suddenly the Switch doesn't have all these great games coming out immediately, and not enough of a promise of great games in the future. And so maybe I'm suddenly less interested in my Switch, or other people might say I'm less interested in finally going to pick one up. It's a very, very tricky scenario, I think, and there are, of course, as per usual, a lot of factors that even goes directly into this aspect of what they need to do at E3. And for me, part of what I'm factoring into this when I consider what would happen if they didn't have a really, really successful E3 is the fact that the first half of 2018, in my opinion, it hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been great either. I mean, honestly, I haven't bought a Switch game this year, I don't think. Kirby Star Allies did come out. I didn't pick it up. It's not my kind of game, but it is a good game, a game that people very much like, and I think has sold pretty darn well, so that part is really nice. I haven't heard of any huge, really indie games the first couple of months. There just hasn't been a whole lot. And I know some people are going to start, listing a couple of smaller tier titles that have come out that they've picked up, and I think that's great. I mean, it's not like there hasn't been some great games to play. First, third party, indie, whatever. I totally get that there has been. But I don't think any of us are really overloaded with stuff to play on our Nintendo Switch in the first couple of months of 2018. There just hasn't been a lot. We did get two very cool and very exciting Nintendo Directs. Absolutely. I thought the January 11th mini Direct was fine. Got me very excited. Showed us that Dark Souls Remastered was coming. That was awesome. I thought the one was at the end of March. Now I can't remember. I think it's been 5 or 6 weeks. There was one a couple of weeks ago as well. That was also very exciting. So they are showing us a couple of cool things. There are games to be excited about. Wolfenstein is coming. Mario Tennis is coming the week after E3 or even the week before. I have to double check. But sometime in June, a Mario Tennis is coming. Wolfenstein by the end of the month. Dark Souls Remastered maybe sometime in July or August. Not to mention whatever they're going to show us at E3. I know that 2018 will be picking up, but it's hard to really to not pay attention to the fact that the first half has been kind of boring. Now, of course, that's okay. Every company and every console can have periods where things slow down, especially when a console comes out and just shoots right out of the gate the way the Nintendo Switch does. We were going to hit a lull period. And overall, I'm fine with that. This isn't really me complaining about the lull in the first half of the year, but it is me acknowledging that it exists, and I would hate to think we live in a world where we have a slow first half, E3 comes along in June, and what if they really don't give us a lot? What if they don't give us a lot more other exciting surprises for 2018? I mean, let's imagine that happened. We know they're going to detail Smash, and Smash is going to be huge. Smash Brothers, Dark Souls, Wolfenstein, Paper Mario, oh my gosh, Mario Tennis. Those are the 4 games. Oh, and hopefully Fire Emblem. So those are the 5 games that we know should be filling out a lot of the rest of the year. Great games, first-party games, third-party games, a nice balance of both. There's a lot going on there that is very exciting, so I know they'll still ultimately have an okay year, but I think they have to kick it into overdrive a little bit at E3. They have to show us some surprises that I think, personally, promise some great games for the rest of this year, as well as, I'm saying it, I think at least one tease for some game in 2019. Whether that's Pokemon, whether that's Metroid, whether that's some other game that we're not familiar with, who knows? And let's start to spin this into a little bit more of the positive here, because I'm not totally trying to just dog the whole bad E3 kind of thing. There's a couple of things that might happen that might turn out really fantastic. Keep in mind, I have faith in Nintendo. I usually love their presentations. Except for 2015, I've loved all of their other even mediocre presentations. Really, I am an optimistic Nintendo fan. A lot of you guys know that. So a couple of great things could still end up happening here when it comes to E3. One, they could show us Pokemon and or Metroid Prime are 2018 games. They could do that. I don't expect that, and I've been putting my money on 2019 for those games, but hey, I'm ready to be proven wrong. Every day of the week, every morning I wake up, it's the day I say, hey, Nintendo, if today's the day you want to prove me wrong and show us Metroid as 2018, I'm ready. Show it to me. Like, give me that game now. I don't think we're going to see that, but hey, they could do that. That's going to make a kick-ass 2018 for sure. Also, Nintendo doesn't put all of their chips into the E3 basket. That is one of the best and most brilliant things about the company. They give us Nintendo Directs, they give us mini Directs, they give us random surprises and things you just never know. Their YouTube channel, you never know what it's going to pop up with a new trailer for some new game that might be like a really cool looking indie game, and that could be great. And then suddenly it's like, oh, well, there's some other cool stuff that we had no idea about. Nintendo just decided to drop on us. Another game they could detail for the rest of the year that's very exciting to me, I almost forgot about this, is Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes. That is a hugely important title to me. That is something that I think very much could get a lot of people excited about the Switch again, if it turns out to be appealing to a wider mass of people. There is some controversy with that game over how it's being designed, and it's different than a traditional No More Heroes game, and I get it. I would prefer a traditional game 1,000 times a day over this Travis Strikes Again game. But I still think the game looks very good, and I'm just happy to have a Travis touchdown video game. So that's another huge game that they could spend some time on at E3 that would be really, hopefully, successful to a lot of people. But I think it comes down to the fact that we know they're going to give us some surprises. Nintendo has dropped the ball before, yes, but I ultimately don't think that they're going to. And they also have Nintendo Directs, and so even if we don't get some of these big megaton things we're expecting at E3, it'll be disappointing initially, and it'll sting like the day of, and it'll sting probably for the rest of the month, but within that time, Nintendo will surprise us with another Nintendo Direct like they always do, and suddenly, here's all these great surprise games we're all excited for. We didn't show them at E3, but we decided to show them to you now. Here's what you can expect in the future, and then we'll all be like, oh my god, this is great again. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to the typical old wait and see. We just have to wait and see what Nintendo's going to do. I have faith and optimism that Nintendo is going to do a very, very good job at E3. I don't know if they're going to try to just do the 2004 thing where they give us like one of the best E3s they've ever done. Or I don't know if, honestly, because they did so much with the Switch in 2017, maybe there really is a smaller lineup for them to share, and they're going to spend so much time on Smash Brothers that we might not get a lot of other surprises. I made a video a couple of weeks ago detailing that same theory of mine, that honestly there really might not be a lot more surprises beyond Smash Brothers because they might not have that many games. I think Metroid and Pokemon are next year. We got all these great games last year. Smash is probably going to carry this year. Mario Tennis is going to be fine, but that's not a system seller amazing game. Fire Emblem is the X factor here. Do they really detail Fire Emblem? Do they confirm it's sticking to 2018? And does that game look amazing? I'm thinking so, but we have to wait for Nintendo to show us that. They have to detail that at E3. That's one that I personally don't see would be a smart game for them to skip at E3 and show it a Direct later. I think Fire Emblem needs to have a pretty strong presence at E3 this year. Personally, that's just my personal feeling. You know, and I mean, maybe they give us that surprise Animal Crossing, but maybe they don't, and that has to show up later, so I don't know. It's the wait and see game. What is Nintendo going to do? They have messed up before. So the point of this video is to remind people that Nintendo isn't perfect. Even in the Switch age, they might mess up this second E3, and it might be kind of boring and not exciting. And all we're going to have to do is just get excited for Smash and then wait for the next Nintendo Direct. I'll be okay if that happens, but I think a lot of us want Nintendo to just kill it at E3. E3 is still important, it does still matter, and I think a lot of us would like to see Nintendo just come out and drop those bombs. Man, we love the E3 bombs, especially from Nintendo. Most of us, it's our favorite company, so we want to see them kill it at E3. And so I'm not yet close enough to the show that I want to predict if they're going to kill it or not. I'm going to make a predictions video probably a couple of days before their presentation, but just as far as the overall concept of what they're doing at E3 and what they need to accomplish, if it goes well, if it goes not so well, all these different things, it's stuff you guys know I like to talk about. So yeah, that's it for me today. Discuss what you guys think about Nintendo at E3. Will it be really, really negatively impactful if they don't knock it out of the park? Or will it be not a big deal because the Switch is such a success? Do you think they have to do a really great job? What do you think? I mean, what do you expect right now? We're less than 2 weeks away, so let's just kind of discuss it and see what's going to happen. But that is it for me. And yeah, thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another E3 video.